Hi, my name is Trent Chapman with Short Sale Genius. I'm going to share with you today how to overcome unsecured notes and cash contributions when dealing with a short sale. Now, a lot of times as an agent, when you're negotiating on behalf of your client, at the end of the transaction, when you're getting that final approval letter, the bank will add in there that there's going to be an unsecured note or the request that your client contribute cash at closing in order to offset their loss. Now, many people assume that this is a stipulation or requirement that cannot be overcome, and that's exactly what they want you to believe. But the truth is, the bank will give in and release that client of the unsecured note or of that cash contribution. Now, in many instances, the reason they're asking for the cash contribution or the unsecured note is because they see that your client has money in a 401k or maybe even some other protected asset, and they may assume that your client is foolish enough to withdraw money from a protected asset to pay off this debt with the short sale. Now, this mistake is made by too many agents. They advise their client wrongfully that they must take money from a cash or from a protected account to satisfy the debt with their lender. Now, this should be a decision that your client makes with the help of their attorney or whoever's advising them as far as liability concerns. Now, you do not want to be in the position of advising your client regarding liability, and your goal obviously should be to get the short sale done without a cash contribution and without them accepting an unsecured note. Now, the reasons that the bank will do the short sale without the unsecured note or the cash contribution are pretty simple. One, if you're giving them more money than a foreclosure, at the end of the day, if they don't believe they can sue your client and get more money after the foreclosure, then in most cases they're going to accept the short sale when push comes to shove. Now, what happens is too many people believe that the bank really will foreclose, and depending on your state laws, seek a judgment after the foreclosure. Now, this is not impossible, but it does not happen too often because the bank has to spend money to get a judgment. And if they're going to spend money to get a judgment, they're going to know ahead of time that there's assets to which they can attach this judgment. So in the cases where a client has assets and they can attach a judgment to those assets, then yes, they might want to give in and accept an unsecured note or cash contribution. And in most cases, my client is completely destitute, has no income or very little income, and their assets are completely depleted because of the real estate market and the mortgage that they've been paying on for the last couple of years. So if this is the situation your client's in, there's no reason for them to scrape together money for a cash contribution or to try and come up with a monthly payment that they can afford in order to pay off an unsecured note. So when you're in a situation, you simply need to go back to the bank and explain, look, I've talked to my client and they have been advised by their attorney that they should go ahead and proceed with the foreclosure if you're going to ask for cash contribution or unsecured note. They do not have any assets or the ability to pay off this debt, and they realize that with the short sale, your bank is getting more money than a foreclosure will get them. Now, obviously, if you give this message that, hey, they're going to let it foreclose if you don't take this unsecured note or cash contribution off, if you give that message to the wrong person, then they will let it foreclose. So unfortunately, your job doesn't end with just pushing back on the bank and telling them this. You also have to find the right person in the bank who has the power to say yes to those terms. Because the person you're dealing with in most cases in a real estate transaction on a short sale doesn't have the power to say yes. All they have the power to do is say no unless the terms are according to what their upper management has approved. So your job now is to get to the person higher up within the bank who has the power to look at your terms and look at your counteroffer saying no unsecured note, no cash contribution, and getting them to accept those terms. So first step, push back to the person you're negotiating with, tell them, sorry, the seller said no. If they say fine, we'll let it foreclose, that's not the end all say I'll answer. The bank's willing to come back and reduce that cash contribution or eliminate it or that unsecured note. Now your job is to find someone higher up in the bank and push back with them to get them to understand that this is not a better option than foreclosure if your client has to take an unsecured note or cash contribution. So hopefully this helps you out with a little bit on your negotiations when dealing with a cash contribution or unsecured note request from a bank. Now if you'd like to watch more videos, go ahead and click on the button down below that says next and continue on.